This is Splice.
You do a podcast as well, right, Pankaj?
Yeah, I do it. It's called Outliers.
Ah, very good.
Oh, very Malcolm Gladwell of you. Let's do this.
I know you're kind of flying blind on this one, Pankaj. I don't think I gave you very much information about what we're doing here, but since you're a pro and uh, and
No.
and you let us in on the secret that you've got your own podcast, I figured you would know how to roll with this one.
Sure.
Any questions before we go? Everyone happy?
You have the questions.
That is true. Welcome to Splice Pink. I'm Alan Soon, one of the co-founders of Splice Media.
I'm Rishad Patel, the other co founder. Pink is where we have quick conversations with people across the global media ecosystem. So it's folks like media startup founders, tech, data, design folks. There are investors, there's journalists, there's media development folks and funders and donors. There are product managers and people who teach and study media, like academics.
And today we're speaking with Pankaj Mishra, co founder of FactorDaily based in Bangalore, India. This is a 5-year-old media startup whose mission it is to make sense of technology's impact on the society around us. At least that's what it says on the website. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. I'm so happy and thrilled to be here. Alan, Rishad.
So, when you started the company about 5 years ago, what was your intent?
Exactly what you said. Uh, what was happening was the technology's impact on society, technology and science, was very underreported in this part of the world, and I'm sure it is the case everywhere else. That was 2015 when we actually registered the company. And we realized that things were getting lost in the news cycles. Uh, Either they were about consumer technology gadgets, or they were about social media, or they were about politics. But the intersection of technology and society is something that fascinated us. And it also made us very restless because we saw what was happening and what it was doing. And there were two aspects of the the interaction, I mean, the intersection that I'm talking about. One is the dark side of technology, where it weakens the weak and creates all kinds of troubles. And then there is this illuminating side of technology, where it empowers, where it shines light, where it democratizes information. So, this is broadly why we got into this.
But Pankaj, that's beautiful. But and it segues directly into what you're saying on Factor Daily, especially your 2.0 version of it, which is exciting to read. What struck Alan and I most of all was the idea of no more publishing cycles, that you would publish when you had something to say. I mean, apart from other flying in the face of the crowd wisdom of how the publishing machine works, what has this saved you in terms of cost and benefits and just that pressure of no deadline?
When we decided that we don't want any news cycles or we don't want to be having any publishing cycles, the idea was not to cut cost or bring any kind of operational efficiency or anything like that. The core idea was we wanted to do we wanted to apply a project approach to journalism and on topics that matter. And we did not want to be a slave of news cycle or a publishing cycle, wherein if it is a daily, we are thinking every day in the morning, I'm getting up and saying, hey, what I'm going to be putting out today. Or if there is any development, I have to make sense of it like, almost like a fast food joint. And we didn't want to do that. I have had 2 decades in journalism across all the newsrooms, and it is very liberating. It is liberating not because of efficiencies and costs, but it is liberating because it allows you to focus deeply on things that matter and in kind of a timeless way.
I can see the merit to that, being able to take 10 steps back and really get to understand a story and, instead of feeling like you need to break that story immediately, right? At a time when everyone else seems to be doing the same thing. But I think maybe one of the biggest challenges in this is trying to engage your audience. If people come with a certain expectation that every day they'll get an email newsletter from you, for example, with an update or something, how do you keep in touch with your audience if you're not there in their faces and they don't know when your next story is coming?
So first of all, we are few months old into this approach. We are again a startup. It is a journey that never ends. Every time you try something new, you become a startup, right? And that is what is happening. To answer your questions, there are a couple of things we are seeing. First of all, I think it's also about habit formation and setting the expectations right. We did this because we wanted to tell our audience, or at least people who care for what we do, is, hey, don't expect us to come to you every day. We will come to you when we have something to tell you, and that happens through newsletter. That happens through continuous dialogues. We have an engagement journalist on our team. She worked with Marshall Project, ProPublica, and this is, I would say, I don't have a perfect answer so far, because like I said, we are listening and learning. But I think it is about having a community approach to journalism, and especially with, if you are tracking some deep topics, you kind of listen to them, and it's not just your readers. As part of this approach, for every topic, we also collaborate with the social sector, organizations that are working in the grassroots in different areas, because to be honest, as journalists, we don't have that depth of domain expertise. So we are tapping into audience communities that we never had access to.
I wanted to ask you, of course, the question that possibly all of your stakeholders and all of your teammates and all of your audience and all of your community asks you. No ads, no paywalls. What's what's going on there? This is exciting.
It is exciting, and one way to describe it, as I always do, is it's very liberating. And no ads, because we all know the troubles with ad. You are actually looking at the advertisers, and you kind of start shaping your product to suit them. And by that, I don't necessarily mean anything unethical. You may be following journalism, but as a product builder, subconsciously your mind starts thinking about advertisers, and you try and bring features, you try and get into activities that is going to be relevant for your advertisers. That is one. Subscription, I have a very different thought about that. I believe subscription is the new advertising. And the reason I say that is because, you know, if you are a subscription product, you are chasing big brands, especially whether it's a university or a large company, you are looking at bulk subscription, sale. Now, you know, the same thing plays, I feel, and I have seen that in many subscription products. You start thinking about subscribers. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, every time you let the mission go out and get dictated by people who pay for it in that sense, and don't get me wrong, I feel it is distracting for a product. So if let's say if there is a big technology company and it has a 10,000 subscription, my ability to either question them or anything else, or if I'm adding a new feature, I would think about, okay, so can I increase the coverage in this direction? Because you are looking at data, just like you would look at a dashboard in the advertising world, right? And for me, that, and I don't have anything. I have not been to a journalism school. I haven't studied data. But for me, that dashboarding is where the problem lies, because I start building a product according to that data. And that is why we don't have subscription. Even in Factor Daily 1.0, we didn't have subscription. We had people writing to us and saying, I feel guilty reading this for free. Why don't you ask for money? I said, If you want to give us money, here is a link to donation. You do that, but that's about it. We won't put it behind a paywall. Not putting behind a paywall is also because we want our journalism to reach more people. We believe that if I want to do something in the public spirited fashion, I need to keep it open. I cannot be a subscription product and say that this is public spirited. How is that public spirited if people who need it can't access it? It's not just about money, it's about creating a wall. Perhaps in few years we will reach a point where we will learn some new things and rethink this, but it won't be ad or subscription at all.
And definitely no VC money, as you say on your website. I thought what was also interesting is that as part of this pivot, you are now a nonprofit newsroom, a Section 8 company incorporated in India. What benefits does that give you, and does it address a problem with the business model?
I'll give you a very honest answer. It doesn't matter whether I am for profit or non-profit, as long as I'm in control of my mission. To be honest with you, I could have done it being or staying the course that I was, as long as I have the control. We did non-profit just to ensure that we don't have any distractions that you face when you are for profit. And by distractions, I mean all of these things. Tracking reader metrics, thinking of a bunch of revenue models and keep getting consumed in those battles. We didn't want any of that. So we are non-profit by choice because we believe it's the most suitable cloth to wear.
We are product people, Alan and I at Splice. We like to experiment with not just audiences, but content and obviously formats. And we're excited by how our audiences are responding to those products. One of those products is a newsletter, and our newsletters. And one of the ways we measure that success or that response is open rates. I know you have an opinion on open rates. You moved away from Mailchimp and you're embracing review because of your privacy commitment. What's your view of open rates?
Just to give an update, we are perhaps moving away from review as well,
Oh, that's another story in itself.
and it's for a bunch of reasons, privacy and data included. We- but and you will see a newsletter product from us very soon. We are just putting it together. Also, in this new approach, what we are doing is we are creating audience communities under different focus topics. So it is not going to be a mass email newsletter product anymore. It has to be more conversational, deep, and very focused. Uh, Talk about open rates. Yeah, I mean, my views are the same. Any dashboard which kind of, I know I sound like a lazy person when I say these things, but it is not for laziness. It is actually not wanting to get distracted by data and not becoming a slave of data. And I have spent 21 years in the profession. I have seen things take birth and die on these dashboards. I don't want to be part of that life cycle. And you can call me lazy, you can call me trying to escape from reality or data, but I don't like that. You can ask me, how do we measure impact?
Exactly. That was what I was trying to get at. I was so excited I was going to interrupt you there. Um, yeah. How do you measure impact if you're not willing to look at any number, any kind of metric, any kind of KPIs?
First of all, as of now, I can't measure the impact because our definition of impact is really long term. And I'll give you an example, right? When we, for example, one of the story projects we are doing is on electronic waste problem. And one of the pockets we kind of chronicled is a place called Selampur, which is near Delhi. I have been traveling there for 5 years now, meeting people and watching firsthand the problems that the society faces. Now, a good impact for us is after 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, there are some changes on the ground in Selampur. If, for example, the phone manufacturers become more responsible because we are questioning them, and they start taking more ownership of recycling in a good way, or there is a new hope in terms of livelihood for people who are involved in this profession in Selampur. There are some organizations who consume our content and they realize the societal problem and they go about finding a solution to those problems. Or number three, our deep story and continuous tracking reaches the corridors of power and policymakers, and there are some tweaks in the policies. Now, these things are not on dashboard. These things are not going to be found in day-to-day or weekly or monthly reports. These are long journeys so far as impact goes. Now, this might sound again like really far-fetched and all of that, but hey, I mean, if I'm doing all of this, then this is an outcome of all of that. So having said that, uh, one of the things we are also doing is we have distribution partnerships with different mainstream media companies across different languages. So we are not obsessed with having people on our homepage and tracking the traffic and so on. We are distributing, for example, the Times of India, which is the world's most read English newspaper platform. They republish all our stories in English. In Malayalam, we have the biggest Malayalam language platform called Malayalam Manorama. They republish our stories in Malayalam. In a few weeks, we will have a Hindi language publisher on board. So see, what is happening is I'm taking these battles off my table, the battles of distribution, the battles of commercialization, and I want to focus primarily on the mission, absolutely nothing else, in a very naked way.
So, the last time we spoke, I was very intrigued by how you were describing the atom of a story. You called it a product. You said every story is a product. Can you explain some of that?
Yeah, in fact, I have a I have a post written on this topic for like a few months. I haven't really published it. This is one of the learnings that I had after 3 years of Factor Daily, and when we were winding it down, I looked back at things that worked for us, and I looked back at it very carefully. Over the past few years, I have also had the privilege to spend time with a lot of software product founders, and I realized that as media, we are creating value. We are creating value with our stories, our ideas, but all of that is unlocked by others, the so called creator economy, or whatever you want to call it, right? There will be a movie producer who will read a newspaper, figure out an idea, go about doing research, and then turn it into a movie. Someone would write a book, someone would build a documentary, and so on. So when I say every story is a product, I mean that it is an IP. And when we look at media, mostly we are looking at business models as ad, subscription, and or branded content and so on. In our experience, in just few months, we have been reached out by a bunch of people who want to turn our stories into web series, documentaries, and they are ready to put the money on the table upfront. So that got me into thinking. So how do I think of stories as an IP? And this meant everything from creating a contract to licensing an IP, story as an IP, and so on. So that's a massive learning, because the if as media we think of every story as a product, and by product I mean something which talks to an audience, a particular community. It has the potential to become habit forming, and it can have enough value in it for someone to pay for it, right? I mean, broadly, these are the things how you would look at product. uh, and when I look at a story like Selampur, for example, it is a product for us. It is not a narrative. It is a product, and show don't tell. We are now licensing it out, and that is what I meant. And I think the media landscape is full of doomsday. People are dejected, especially in this part of the world. I mean, in India, there have been massive layoffs. Uh, we are not being able to attract young, promising people into the profession because senior editorial leaders, they are looking at this as their last jobs, and they are discouraging people. That is bad. And one of the reasons I quit mainstream jobs to build Factor Daily is because I am so much in love with this craft. Now, if we put out from our experiences things that are working, not just the stuff that is broken, hopefully, if someone wants to look at this as a serious profession, as a product builder, they would look at this as an alternate profession.
That, what you're saying here, Pankaj, speaks directly to the heart of what we do at Splice. I mean, for us, to have, for example, this audio interview with you, or this conversation, to us, this translates directly into knowledge for our community. And if it's something that our community prefers as text, we would definitely dump this in Descript, which is a little plug for this amazing tool out there, and transcribe it and run it as a story. If it's worth a community discussion, we'd put it on Google Meet and invite people to chat with you, about this, and so on and so forth. And I hear you about product. I'm curious about how, stuff like, actionable tips for listeners. I mean, could you tell us about the strategy behind how newsrooms should think about um, reinventing themselves as a nonprofit entity?
Um, I will try, uh, because everything I know, there is no playbook as such. I'm still learning and all that. But very quickly, I think one of the things is, I think we need a more sense of pride in what we do. What has happened over the years with platforms threatening the mainstream media, Google, Facebook, and so on, is that there is a lot of dejection out there. We have kind of lost sight of why we exist as media, and what is our role in the society, what is our social contract with the society and our readers, what is our social contract with each other. And this has happened because of many reasons. Everything from fake news to polarization, all of those things have got us where we are. And last but not the least, the whole platform disruption that has happened. So the point is, first of all, we need to gather a sense of pride in what we do and why we exist. I think that would be a good starting point to think of a future where there is hope. Because now the problem is, it is absolute dejection and hopelessness. So that is the first step, I would say, if it's a newsroom or if it's someone in the profession. Be proud of why we exist, and why we matter. What is our social contract with society and our readers? The second thing is, who reads us or who consumes us is more important than how many. And this is again nothing new. And this is a battle which platforms have won because of the deep analytics they have had, because of their algorithmic engines and so on. And conventional media cannot fight that battle, right? So, who is very important? Over the years, newsrooms have not spent enough time in engaging with their reader communities and audience communities, in making them feel being part of this newsroom. This is kind of an ivory tower which needs to change, because suddenly you go out and you tell your audience, hey, you pay for my product. What is the relationship you have? One of my problems with this subscription wave is that people are leapfrogging it. People who transition from print to digital, to this new way. What if I just come to your door one day and ask for money? Cold calling. I don't know you, you don't know me. So I think the one of the important building blocks, according to me, is to first build a relationship. If I know you, you know me, and I feel that what you do is valuable, I will pay for it. I will perhaps pay more than what you are asking me. This, whether people are charging everything from $1 to $1,000 and so on. Perhaps I can give you a couple of $1,000 a year if I have this relationship with you. That is missing, and that's a very important thing missing in most of the subscription products, especially in media, because they are an outcome of what VCs, the disease that VCs have, FOMO. And this FOMO is now driving a lot of companies to subscription and so on. So that is the other thing I will say. And the final thing is, every story is a product. And by that, I don't necessarily mean every story that you do every day, depending on your news cycle. But if you are going to be looking at a funnel of ideas and stories every month, you kind of handpick one or two who have the potential to become product, and you disproportionately invest your time and efforts in seeing it through, taking it through the entire product life cycle, from idea to, or community to monetization and everything around it, and ring fence it so well that others cannot unlock value from it. I mean, get more possessive about those ideas and story products. Have that sense of obsession about it, and yeah, that's how I would sum it up.
I love a couple of things that you said here. Our listeners can't see us, of course, but I'm sitting and nodding like as though my head's going to fall off. But what I'm excited by, two things that you said were, one is that you earn your conversation and with your audiences, you earn that relationship. You don't just your opening gambit isn't, hey, that'll be 5.99, please, as a subscription model. And the second thing you're saying, which also again speaks right to our DNA, and of course, we're also very exciting, is the idea that when you want to scale, you do it by doing things that don't scale. I love that you said you invest a disproportionate amount of time and effort in building a story that you see has relevance and utility and value to your communities, and you build that out as a product. That's amazing.
So, speaking of relationships, if I could pick up on one of the points that you made earlier as well, um, what can we as Splice do to support the incredible work that you're doing and the thought process that you put into it, and also what can the community that's around us do to help you as well?
Absolutely. I mean, and we should keep talking first of all. And I think we need to form a collective wherein we are talking about these learnings in a more open way. One of the things that we don't do enough as media, whether it is new or old, is we don't share our playbooks. And it is a deterrent in kind of becoming better as an industry, as a collective. And I see that, and everywhere. So I would definitely like us to brainstorm more, kind of bringing field notes from the battlefield. We all have scars and we have trophies, all of that, right? But we don't exchange them. We don't bring it. When next time we meet, we should be proud enough to put both the scars and trophies on the table and say, hey, I was there and this is what I picked up. So next time someone else is going to that battlefront, they know how to deal with it. I'm not saying there won't be scars. You are foolish if you are still going to fight in this battle, but you will know a lot about healing, right? You will know how to come out of it. And I think the role of one of the other reasons, and when Rishad asked as to why we are non-profit, is also to open source our learning without any profit objective. So, our company is called Source Code Media from the time we registered in 2015. Uh, I think a good way to look at us is like a media lab. Stories are one of the outcomes. So, every design tool, everything that we build, we plan to open source. Everything I'm telling you now, including this blog I haven't published about every story being a product, we will be putting it out. We have a kind of a process. How do you animate a story? We will put that out. So The point I'm trying to make is you will have all kinds of companies in media, for profit and venture funded and so on. But I think the role for folks like us is to kind of keep bringing learnings on the table. And these are exciting times to be in this part of the world, and we should, as collective, become more proud about it.
Hey, to more scars and trophies and sharing them better among the community, we're all for that. Pankaj, thank you so much for hanging out with us and teaching us all these lessons. We're very grateful. We hope Fact Daily does a lot. We'll be watching you, and let's have those conversations. That's a wrap for this episode of Splice Pink. If you like this podcast and want to get more, please subscribe. Better yet, share this with someone that you think would enjoy it, and get in touch. We're on splicemedia.com. We'll catch you on the next one. This is Splice.